excited to be joined by our first guest, Natasha Munasinghe. As we'll all come to hear, Natasha is someone that has so eagerly embraced the flip side. She has so willingly served people throughout her career and has done so many different things that we're so excited to dive into. Of many things she's achieved, Natasha is a lawyer. She's the CEO of Frank, a company that focuses on education and training. She's also a full-stack developer and was the recipient of the Women in Tech Scholarship from Coder Academy. So we're so excited to jump into all that today.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies.
Of course. We really want to dive into first Frank and everything that it encompasses. I know that I did the interchange program in these winter holidays and I loved it. I thought it was really great, especially over Zoom. It works really well. Yes, I really want to dive into like what Frank is and what it aims to achieve.
Yeah, sure. So glad you enjoyed Interchange. We definitely went from like a face-to-face program to COVID hit and everything was online. So we were learning as we were going. With Frank, so as you said, yeah, it's an education company. Our job and really the reason we exist, our mission is to enable people to prepare for the workforce, whatever that's going to be looking like. And with COVID, a lot of the rules have really changed. And a lot of different skills are in demand, and it's going to take maybe different things from all of us going into the workforce. So when it comes to those skills, that practical experience, the mindset we need, we kind of go and find that out, and then our job is to share it with as many people as possible. And that's really what gets me pumped in the morning. That's what gets me excited because I'm learning as well. And as you can see from my fruit salad of experience in terms of my work, I have to apply some of these skills myself in terms of learning new things, trying stuff, sometimes taking a bit of a zigzag versus a straight line. So the main philosophy in terms of work is it's not so much a career ladder. We always taught about you get on the ladder and you kind of make your way up. I always say it's now a jungle gym. You go to the side, you go back sometimes, you got to take some steps back before you take a leap forward. And so mentally you got to prepare yourself for that jungle gym-like experience because that amount of change also is uncomfortable. Right?
Yeah. I think that's what was so crazy about this year is nobody expected, like if someone had told me last year that everything would be on Zoom, all of uni classes on Zoom, working on Zoom, I'd be like, no way, like people couldn't handle that. And now everybody was just forced into like this new routine of like working from home. And it shows how adaptable humans really are and how well we can take it on. Because honestly, the change to me has not felt like this huge, big disruption in my life. It's been actually quite smooth.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing that I'm kind of really pleasantly happy with humanity as a whole is that we've kind of got on with it, and the world it's fundamentally a different world out there. But we got to go to work and we got to figure what that's going to look like, and we got to go and still have our meetings and still run programs and still learn, still talk to our family, and okay, well, how do we do it? Let's get on. And so I just think at the end of all this, we just got to give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back to go, we kind of got through.
We really did that. Yeah, definitely.
And now, and then how can we take that same mentality into other areas in life, or in try to create opportunities for ourselves where we're not forced to make it? How do we use the same sort of perception or mindset to create stuff ourselves?
I agree.
That's the exciting thing.
Definitely. I think that, like you mentioned, careers now are changing and the nature of the workforce is changing so rapidly, and we're all going to be doing so many things in life. I think you referred to it as a jungle gym. I think that's definitely what we're preparing for at the moment. So how do you think, in terms of the current education space, how do you think that is or isn't equipping students for that future workforce and trying to create really meaningful, awesome careers?
So, I mean, kudos to, so the university. So, because I went through uni, you guys have been through uni.
Yeah.
When I was doing it sort of a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago, we didn't really talk about careers. The assumption was as soon as you got a degree, that was enough to get you into the workplace. And if you could get a little bit of work experience, you were a bit ahead. But now universities have realized actually employers want a lot more. And so we have to give a degree, but that's the basic minimum. What else can we do? So unis have come a long way in terms of giving some of those opportunities. But I think one of the tougher things for anyone in going into a career, so not just university students, even those that are sort of 20, 30 years in, is a mindset of being the CEO of your own career. So, you're used to running a business, you're used to being the CEO. You're like, okay, so what does our marketing team do? What do we do? What's the strategy? But I feel like if you're trying to get into the workforce and you're in the workforce, you have to take the same mentality as if you're running a business. So you have to do your skills. That's the basic thing. But then you got to think about marketing your stuff, right? So you guys have a podcast. That's some really cool things. That's your marketing in terms of your career, right? You got to upskill. You got to have a training department. Then you got to figure out how to sell, like how you get into interviews, and that's a whole other skill set. Then you got to do your research and figure out, okay, I'm selling this thing now, but in 5 years, are people going to want to buy it? What's going to be the hot thing that they're going to be buying? So I think we really, all of us, and including myself, need to take that approach of driving our own career and treating it as if we're running a business, which I think is exciting because I think it will open tons of more doors. That's the other thing, right? So KPMG, which is an accounting financial services firm, in I think 2016, now 2017, for 30% of their auditing grads, they didn't have a accounting, commerce, finance background. They were like social workers, language students, teachers. And so that now also is another, for me, just the most exciting thing for the generation coming through is you're not limited by the degree you're studying. Really, it's enough to get you to the door for anything. A tech company, a law company, a government job. Because people now are interested in more the other people's skills, the transferable skills. That's a difference. And that wasn't the same when I was graduating from uni. If I had a law degree, I essentially had to more or less look at law type job opportunities. I couldn't definitely go into an accounting firm. You don't have that restriction anymore. So I think you should leverage that.
I totally agree. How was that transition for you? Because you were an international student, right? When you so how was that transition from leaving university and going into the workforce?
I had no idea what to expect. So I did my law at Sydney Uni, and then I went to ANU and did my practical elements. I became a solicitor. And then I was like, oh, now, I have everything I need. I've ticked all the boxes. Now let's just go about finding this job thing. So I remember calling. I hadn't done any networking. I didn't even know if that was useful. People had told me I'd missed the message, right? So I got up, and I knew a family friend who was a solicitor. And I called him, hi, so I'm looking for a job. And he's like, okay, so how much experience do you have? And I was like, I don't have experience. I've just been studying. And he's like, oh, okay. And then his advice to me was, please lie at interviews. And don't tell them you're a solicitor. And his reason was, if you tell people you're a solicitor and you have no experience, you're competing with every other solicitor who's already been working and has experience. So that was a real shock because I thought I'd done everything I had to do, which is keeping the grades up, all that stuff. And then having come out, super excited to go, someone's like, yeah, just lie. Downplay yourself. So that was a real wake-up call. So I had to be super creative about going about, getting jobs and stuff. But that's why I always say start from like year one. People always wait till it's graduation, but a lot of the opportunities are starting from year one.
I totally agree.
So the more you can do, even you guys are being super proactive by doing something like this. There's so much of an advantage you give yourselves by doing the extra stuff that will reap a ton of reward in a few years.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also think just like the energy at our age that you have, and just like a lot of people have security living at home. I just feel like there's never a better time just to try everything, because if it fails, you have something to fall back on. So I definitely
and the failure is that's something you might try something, it doesn't work, and this is something I try to keep reminding myself is doesn't mean one that you're a failure, just means you tried something and it didn't work, and then the next thing is just change your strategy, because the strategy A you took didn't get you. Well, try strategy B, and if that doesn't work, try strategy C. And keep going. And an employer will really value that you've given things a go. They're not looking for crazy results. They're looking for effort. They're looking for discipline. They're looking for accountability. They're looking for work ethic. those are the things you're picking up, even if the results, you're not happy with the results. So for me, it's just a win regardless.
Yeah.
But it takes extra work. That's the other side.
What was it specifically that really drew you into the education space?
So I think for a long time just had this thing that I wanted to unleash people's potential. And it's just been in my mind. And I had no idea. I'm like, what does that even mean? It sounds like a Hallmark card or something. But I think when I started it, doing workshops, and I started when I was at uni. And I started, to be honest, also with just trying to improve my presentation and public speaking skills, because I was just so terrified of people. Mm-hmm. I love people, but I'm terrified of people, right? So I just wanted to get better at it. And so when I was with people, when we were talking about some of these topics, I found a part of me really, really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And I know with law also, I was questioning, is this the part for me? And I definitely enjoyed the people element much more. So I think that and the fact that I could do something positive was what drew me towards education. And in terms of what's kept me is this idea that when it comes to work, we're going to spend most of our lives working, right? And so like 60 years, 50 years, 70 years for some of us. So because it forms such a big part of life, you want to make sure, one, you're doing stuff that you're proud of, it's fulfilling, but two, that you're getting enjoyment, that you're feeling, growth, all the good stuff about you. And that's not a wasted opportunity. So in terms of our space, I feel like we have a bit of a platform to tell or share with people, okay, so go and look at what your skills are. Yeah. Try to inject some passion into your work. Even if it's not in your day-to-day job, find something else, a bit of a side hustle. Yeah. The ability to just have and share that message, I just like that, being in that space. That's what kind of keeps me. That makes me happy.
Yeah, definitely. That. For you, I mean, it's so evident that you've been so open-minded in your approach to your career and, been really open to trying new things, changing around, just following your passions. Where do you think that ambition came from?
So I think I'm just curious. So with technology, I know going from law to coding was excruciating. And my brain is just not made for coding. But it was just 2 years of frustration because everyone was talking about technology. Everyone was talking about digital this, digital that. And if I was honest with myself, I'm like, I have no idea what these people are saying, Mm-hmm. It sounds wonderful, but I actually don't know how it works. Like, what's AI about? Like, how does that work? So I sat with that feeling for 2 years and I thought I have to do something about it and I just want to learn. So I tried a few online things that didn't work and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to jump in. And I know it's not going to be a wasted opportunity. I'll always learn something that's in demand. Mm-hmm. But maybe I'll come out with some of my questions answered and I can build my own stuff. That was also one of my things is I don't want to rely on anyone to build. I want to build. Yeah. So it's a curiosity and just giving things a go. So that was now a year and a bit. So I'm already thinking, okay, what's that next thing that I really need to be just keeping an eye on? And unfortunately, that's probably the discipline all of us are going to have to do throughout that's how our careers are going to be different from our parents.
Yeah.
We have to reskill like the crazy way we're going to reskill. They're thinking 17 jobs or 5 different industries for an average 18-year-old these days, which is a lot of change, right?
Yeah.
5 different industries. So I have law, tech, and education already. So so it's good because it keeps our brains awake. But I also think we have to mentally manage, be okay with managing change because that's also very stressful. It's hard to make decisions, plan careers, plan families, get mortgages when you're not sure if your job's going to be around in 5 years. So that's a whole other thing also that I'm definitely conscious of for myself, but I try to share with other people is find ways that you can manage your change. And in a way, COVID has been a bit good for us. It's given us the ultimate stress test.
Yeah.
Right? And I just feel like a lot of us have passed, which I think we should always take back and hope for ourselves that if we can get through this and we can get through to smiling or doing new stuff like you're doing, that the fact that you were able to conquer that way should give you a lot of strength for future stuff you do. because it is a once in 100-year event. Like, it's no joke.
I totally agree. It's kind of like the saying, like, don't hold all your eggs in one basket. It's like you wouldn't keep all your money in one bank account, so you shouldn't just keep yourself restricted to just one thing. I think it's really good to diversify yourself, whether it's more than one degree or just taking things like interchange and frank and just increasing your skills, I think has been
I was I have a guy who's a professor at NYU, one of the universities in the US, and I follow him because I just think he's super smart. And he has a whole thing on careers and where the world's going. And one thing he was talking about in terms of brand or just standing out was using like Lindt chocolate as an example, right? And what I mean by that is Lindt chocolate which is a chocolate cocoa sugar, and then you have something crazy like a chili or a ginger, and they mix it together. Right? So you would never traditionally mix like a chocolate and a chili, but now we're mixing all sorts of things up, right? So I always think that's a great thing for a career, because if you have, let's say, accounting or law or engineering, coding, find some skill set that's so different from that and mix it together. So if you're doing accounting, take a landscaping course. and the reason is, if you are trying to stand out, the moment you take something and you mix it up completely differently, you've just created a position where you stand out. There are going to be very few people that then are accountants and know about landscaping or soil control or whatever I don't know anything about landscaping, but that can have those two skill sets and that can talk about it. It just automatically makes people go, oh, this person's different. This person's interesting. Yeah. And for you will learn skills that otherwise part of your brains would never connect together. Yeah. Right? So I think that's one of the disciplines is, if you're going ahead into this career place thinking of how you're standing out, or like that's going to be one of the things that we need to all think about, is to start mixing skill sets up and really, like, as if you had, a blindfold and some paint, just really going crazy and going, what can I do that could, is a complete opposite of my degree, that I can really sort of learn from, jump into, and that'll give you stuff to talk about in interviews, with employers. People's eyebrows will sort of lift when they hear that you're mixing these things up. Yeah,
definitely. I think because we both do law and communications, and I think especially like a podcast on law is definitely good two ends, because we have so much freedom in a podcast to discuss exactly what we want, whereas law is like, here's your legislation, interpret it, and then like, so it's definitely nice to have something which is much more open and free to
definitely. Also, I think that Georgia and we both do internships and things that are like completely different to what we study. And I think that's been a great opportunity, but I definitely think that at times we can feel a bit like burnt out or tired, or like we're doing so much, because we definitely recognize the value of doing so many different things, but at certain points it is like, okay, I have to like live and socialize too. So,
100%.
I'm sure with you would have definitely had to deal with trying to balance things and finding out your priorities and living intentionally. Were there any like major moments of that in your life where you had to stop and reflect on what you were doing and kind of try and realign?
So and I think I had a moment like that yesterday, actually, because never start your day with like a digital marketing webinar at 8 a.m. because they threw so much information at me, and I walked away going, oh my God, I know nothing about the world. So I was like, there's so much to catch up. And I think that's the other thing, which I think is a very fair point, is you have to really choose the level you want to play in, and with COVID, probably the other silver lining is it's forced us to slow down and reflect and think, actually, and this is the question I'm asking and I haven't answered, is what makes a good life? And really, what makes a good life for me versus all the other messages I'm getting from the world? But really, if I was honest with myself, where am I the happiest? We all have X amount of time. It's the one thing we can't control. It's the ultimate precious commodity is our time, because we could go like this, right? So how are you going to actually, one, have some control over that time? And I think that's the purpose of a career, is to give you control over your time. And two, for that little bit of control you have, how do you spend it? So that's definitely what I'm asking. So things like, where do I live? What are my values? What's a good working day for me? What types of people do I want to hang around? What types of people don't I want to hang around? Who inspires me, and who who makes me think I don't want your life.
Yeah.
Like being just very real, and not that it's a bad life, it's just not the life I want.
Yeah.
You know, and if you figure it out at this age, you're good. I'm still trying to figure this out. So, but I'm trying to use COVID as an opportunity where all the rules have changed, so we can start making some of these rules up for our lives ourselves. You know, and the fact that we can work from anywhere, I think that should give us tremendous potential to start actually thinking about our lifestyle, our relationships.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think for me with COVID, it made me, because there was no morning commute or like coming back from uni or work, I took that time, instead of just sleeping in for an extra hour, I would get up and like, then I started just going to the gym every day, and then had more time in the evening to like sit with my family and like actually like have a conversation and like play a board game. And it kind of made me realize that like, as much as I love my work, it made me want to be more structured and more efficient to just get my work done, so then I can enjoy the other half of my life, which is like my friends and my family. Which it's definitely really helped me balance like that side of my life a lot. Which
I think about like when I'm the happiest. I mean, I love traveling, so that's the bad thing about COVID. Is I'm dying and I can't travel, right? So when I'm traveling, I'm really happy, and when I'm traveling with people I love, I'm the happiest. You know, I've done lots of solo journeys, and backpacking and stuff, and that was great because it was new places and new vistas. But the shared moments with somebody, and then you can, after the trip is over, talk about all that stuff. That is just that, and it's also the time I don't check social media, because I was wondering, that's the other thing for me, is the social media thing is getting out of control. So I'm really like, how do I cut down? And I asked myself, when do I not check social media? It's really, again, when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
Like the phone just goes away. I only take photos with it, right?
Yeah. Best feeling.
But yeah, so those moments, if those are my happy moments, how do I create a life that I can have more of those happy moments?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think shared experience is so important. And you touched on a really good point with social media, because it definitely is like, I even just see walking to a cafe, like people sitting down, having breakfast, and they're both on their phones, whether it's emails or Facebook or whatever it is. And I also think even in terms of like comparing yourself to people, like if you can even go on someone's LinkedIn and be like, they're doing all this, and like I can't get my foot in the door, and it's like it's just a constant. I've definitely put on my screen time to like limit, so like when it says I've gone on social media for like an hour, I'm like, okay, now I've got to get off.
Oh, that's very smart.
That's been a really good help.
And must
it's
during COVID. Definitely.
The comparison thing, the social comparison thing, sometimes it can be inspiring because it forces you to do better, but if there's, after a certain limit, I find, just speaking for myself, that if you don't feel good at the end of it, then it's a negative interaction. If you're questioning yourself, your abilities, your confidence, that's not a good place to be. So, and I find with excessive social media, that's when I really try to limit, or it doesn't work for me, is when I'm getting to that point where I'm thinking what I'm doing is not enough. You know, and so we have to take some sort of control over that. Otherwise, that's just a spiral that you go down.
Yeah, I completely agree. And sometimes like I'd see my phone pinging, and I just like, I'll be in my garden, I look up and I'm like, none of this is actually physically real, whereas I'm sitting outside and it's a beautiful day, and I just need to focus on what's actually in my life and not what's just
how do we get here?
It's crazy.
Literally. And just
use it wisely. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of going back to career, and we're both in university currently, so we're going to start thinking about, we've still got a few years left, but we'll start thinking about how we want to enter the workforce. And I mean, you talked a bit about how you were told to say that you had no experience, or to play yourself down to try and get a job, things like that. What would be your biggest tips for us trying to get into the workforce after uni? Yes.
So I think the thing that should hopefully take the pressure off you is no decision is wrong. So none of the decisions you make right now are wrong. Because even if you start somewhere which is very different or very same in the field that you're studying, and you're a year down the line, 2 years down the line, you're like, yep, don't like it, you have still learned a lot of stuff that now you can use at the next place. And the good thing with employers is they're looking for transferability of skills. They're not concerned about so much about the degree or even the institution. Some of them just blind, they cover the actual uni because they don't care about the uni name anymore. They're trying to give some sort of equality, sort of equal standing for everybody. So take the pressure off to go, there's one right decision. There actually isn't. Yeah. They're all right? So the important thing is take a decision, make one. If you have 5 choices, think of the one that you might like the most. If all of them look great, if all of them look bad, think of the one that would you think, okay, this might be where I want to try. And then in months or a year, tell yourself, okay, I'm going to reassess. And I'm going to have some hard questions on, now I know what this job is about. I know what skills I've got or what skills I haven't got. How do I feel? Should I make a move?
Yeah.
And that, if you take that discipline, I think you're fine, right? The biggest thing, and I think I see this a lot with students, is there's too much choice, and so it becomes like a paralysis. You're like, I got to analyze. But if I could just give one message, is there is no wrong choice.
I agree.
Just go do it. I mean, go use this time to experiment, try stuff. Just using a career hat is some way documented. Yeah. So whether it's through a podcast, whether it's through a LinkedIn article, whether it's through a blog, and the reason is when you document, that's the stuff you use to create the next employment opportunity. So employers can see the journey you've taken, not that you've just been twiddling your thumbs for the last 2 years. Yeah. They want to see the journey.
Definitely.
Just document it. That's all.
I'm sorry. There you go.
I was just going to mention that. Yeah, I think what you said about that, way too many choices. There's just, I definitely felt that trying to figure out what I wanted to do in uni. It was so much of a burden to pick one thing that was perfectly right. But I just think it's so important. I just want to reiterate what you've been saying about how our careers will be so diverse and we're going to change so much. How much was it? Sorry, did you say 5 fields and 17 jobs?
So 17. So 17. Well, that's on average, right? So 17 jobs, 5 different industries. Yeah. And before COVID, so I would even say there might be probably some recent, more relevant facts, but that's the sort of the going one.
Yeah.
We don't know what industries will take off in 5 years. So. Yeah. The whole sustainability, green energy, the green economy, I hope that takes off. That takes off. That's like a whole other set of job skills, right?
Yeah.
Then there's, if you're looking at transport, there's a whole bunch of companies from Uber to Lyft to Honda that have divisions called urban mobility, i.e. the thing that I've been waiting on my whole life for. Flying cars, right? So I can't even imagine it, but there's actually urban mobility divisions in these companies. Yeah. So for me, I'm excited for the new things that are there. We cannot plan I don't even think 3 years, I don't even think you can plan.
Completely.
It might be a year, it might be 24 months. It's just to make sure that, you're still very aware of your fulfillment, your satisfaction, your growth. And you take charge of that. You don't outsource that to an employer. You really start figuring out that for yourself. And then as you're doing these different things, whether they're volunteer, whether they're paid, finding a way to note it down so you can tell someone what the journey has been and what the skills you have. So even if it's doing vlogs, podcasts, or whatever, that's the thing, that noting down that journey is what's going to help you get to create those next opportunities. But it's just a totally different mindset. The other thing in terms of having too much choices, figuring out what helps you manage change. So change, for me, it doesn't sound like a bit of a dangerous word, but I really think it is. So if you're used to something working for you in 2-3 years, and I tell you in 5 years it's not going to exist for you, what are you going to do? That's a scary thing, right? Yeah. Particularly as you take more responsibilities on, maybe you have a family, maybe you have a mortgage, then, changing jobs every 3-4 years is not a very sexy proposition because it doesn't give you stability. Yeah. So you've got to figure that out early. What helps you manage change? Is it being around certain people? Is it taking some time out? Is it going on a holiday? Is it meditating? Is it going gardening? Whatever those things are, and keep doing those things. Make sure you make room in your life because that's the stuff that's going to keep you sane. Otherwise, the world becomes a bit insane because there's just a ton of change. It's like a bit of a tornado all the time. You've got to figure out what gets you out of the tornado.
Yeah, I agree. I also I know personally for me, at this age, I love just trying everything. Like I'm so, because my degrees are so open-ended. The law's kind of closed-ended, but you can take it outside of just being a practicing lawyer. And so like I've just been trying everything from like superannuation funds to book publishing to like and anything I can get my hands on. I'm like, I'll take it. And I think the other thing is to not feel disheartened when you go to apply for something and it looks great, and then they're like, oh, but you have to have 3 years of experience, because it is that just kind of like, how are you going to market yourself and go like, I might not have that, but I've done this and this, that basically puts me on the same level as someone who's worked in that industry for 3 years, which is why I think doing things outside of just your degree is so crucial to building yourself up.
It gives you something to talk about. I mean, do you envision yourselves practicing law, or at the moment are you probably thinking away from law?
I think I want to try it, but I don't think I'll do it forever. I think like I've come this far, I've got to try a bit of law. But I think you learn such amazing things about society and law that I'm like, I want to take that skill to like another level where it's not just like one-on-one help, but it's like a broader scale. Like I think there's a lot you could do with what you gain from law. So,
yeah, definitely. I'm similar. I think I'll practice it for a little bit, but excited to venture into other things too. Yeah.
I think we can all have side hustles. That's probably going to be another thing.
For sure.
We all will end up probably having, we always think one source of income. I think in the future we're probably going to have multiple sources of income. One, that's the thing that gives us security, that if one job fails or one contract doesn't work out, we still have other ones, so we shouldn't stress out so much. But also by having a little slight hustle, that's where maybe we can exercise our passions, learn our new skills. So that's a new thing also that was never taught to us when we were going through uni. You just had one career, one job, and but we were never told about side hustles. But
exactly.
I think that is a legitimate thing for all of us, is to have different sources of income.
Exactly. And even the people you meet, like I'm going to remember for like the rest of my life to be the CEO of myself now, and like, take that and like diversify.
Exactly. Yeah, I think if you can take the mentality of be the CEO of your own career and the positives from that, I think you can manage whatever comes your way.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
I think it's also so cool to see how many young people now really are adopting that. I think that with side hustles and all the potential now with social media and technology, it's been so amazing to see young people do so many cool things.
Yeah. So much potential. I think that comes from as well seeing like the capability of other people, and like because you have with the internet access to like you can literally read about any topic there is, and so like you find these different passions that you might not have known about, now you can see on the internet, and it just it's really reshaping our generation.
Definitely.
There's lots more opportunity to do some cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And to do it from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Yeah. Well, I think working from home is going to become a really big thing in the future for sure, which I love, but I also think for us, I'm like, are we going to experience that like in office life where it's like meetings and stuff, or are we always just going to be on Zoom like meet people from our work like 4 times a year? Like it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah,
well, it's been such a lovely chat. We've loved talking to you so much.
No, thank you for having me. I'm so honored. So, keep me posted. I think if there was the one takeaway that if someone could remember from this podcast, it would be about being the CEO of your career.
Yeah.
Or maybe two. I'll do 2. Take charge. Yeah. And then the second one was just being kind to yourself. Because you will always have a lot of choice now, and just taking a moment to figure out what works for you, and being okay to say no to everything else. But really just being kind and not getting caught up in that crazy tornado.
Yeah. I love that. I think people can be really harsh on themselves nowadays, especially with the whole like comparative mindset. So I think just learning to be happy. I know we can be massive perfectionists sometimes, so it's good to just relax and
definitely to
be kind,
take ownership and recognize that you really are in control of yourself, and you have the ability to put yourself out there and achieve.
It's like that personal responsibility, I think, is really, really good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was
no worries. No worries. Thank you so much. And so, good luck with the rest of it, and let me know when it's online.
That was such such a fun first interview.
She was so lovely.
Yeah, she was awesome.
That was great. I'm so keen to just start like embodying like being the CEO of myself and like carrying that through. I loved that.
Yeah, it was so awesome.
Yeah. So if you guys liked this episode and you want to see more episodes like this, please like and subscribe. We've got some other really great guests coming up as well. So should be really interesting.
Yeah, check them out every Monday. We're so keen.
Yeah, see you on the flip side.
Catch you on the flip side.